Malaysia 370, Malaysia 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysia 370.
In the early hours of March 8, 2014, came the final sign-off from the cockpit. Moments later, a single green blip on civilian radar vanished from the screen. At the airport, the departure board just kept flashing one word: delayed. In the waiting hall, a father's voice shook as he spoke.
My daughter is on that plane. Can someone please tell me what's happening?
This new data, MH370, ended in the southern Indian Ocean.
That night, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 vanished with 239 souls on board. More than a decade later, this mystery is still unresolved, and for one simple reason. The crucial data came out late, it was incomplete, and it contradicted itself. And that vacuum is exactly what's kept conspiracy theories alive ever since. Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. Civilian radar lost the plane, but military radar kept tracking its movements. Instead of staying east on its planned route, the plane made a sharp turn west, cutting across the Malay Peninsula and heading out toward the Indian Ocean. The problem, though, was that none of this was revealed right away. Only days later did officials finally admit the military had tracked the jet. By then, search teams had wasted precious days scouring the South China Sea. That delay planted the very first seeds of a cover-up suspicion. Imagine going back to that night. The military radar data is released instantly, and command centers halt the South China Sea search. Ships and planes immediately change course, heading west across the peninsula. They follow the warm debris field in the ocean and recover wreckage within a matter of days. If that had happened, the story of MH370 wouldn't be one of disappearance. It would have been definitively locked in as a tragic accident. But in reality, there was no instant response, only delay. And that very first gap opened the door to everything that followed. Even after it disappeared from civilian radar, MH370 left a trail that showed it kept flying for almost 7 more hours. The evidence came from Inmarsat satellites, and it all came down to just 2 numbers. First, the time it took a signal to bounce between the plane and the satellite, BTO. This gave its distance. Second, the tiny wobble in frequency, BFO, that hinted whether the jet was heading north or south. Overlay these 2 values and you get a massive arc across the map. They called it the Inmarsat arc. Literally, a circle that meant it was somewhere along this line. The problem: it wasn't a coordinate. It was just a vague, massive swath of ocean. Picture the cabin that night. Oxygen levels drop sharply. Passengers lose consciousness within minutes while the cockpit keeps its oxygen and autopilot carries the jet forward. Or maybe someone deliberately cut the systems and steered a flight path designed to vanish. Both of these scenarios fit the satellite data perfectly. But in the end, those pings were just ghostly traces. They never revealed who was at the controls or what really happened. And that haze of uncertainty is where every conspiracy theory found its roots. From 2014 to 2017, governments launched the largest ocean search in history. And still, no main wreckage, no black box. On July 29, 2015, on Réunion Island in the Indian Ocean, the first confirmed piece of crucial debris washed ashore. It was a flaperon from a Boeing 777. That discovery boosted the South Indian Ocean crash theory, but the jet itself still lay hidden in the deep. In 2018, a private firm, Ocean Infinity, sent out autonomous unmanned submarines to scan the seabed again, but their results were limited. 10 years later, the map is still blank. What if the initial military radar data had been shared on day one? The first search would have launched west of the Malay Peninsula, not in the South China Sea. Before the wreckage scattered, surface and mid-water searches could have lined up perfectly. The black box might have been pulled out before 2015, and the wildfire of conspiracies might never have started. But in reality, the silence dragged on, and speculation always outran the data. When it came to suspicion, people became the biggest focus. First, 2 Iranian passengers boarded the plane with stolen passports. But Interpol quickly concluded there was no link to terrorism. But online, they were consumed for years as mystery accomplices. It was a classic case of narrative spreading faster than the facts. And then, there was the captain, Zahari Ahmad Shah. His home flight simulator had a long-haul route across the Indian Ocean saved to it. Once that detail surfaced, public imagination exploded. The theory that this was a rehearsal flight for MH370 dominated the internet and media. Authorities in Australia and Malaysia reviewed the data and released forensic recovery logs. But the interpretation of that data remains divided. One side says it was just practice, the other a trail of intent. So what if it really did happen that way? What would that night have looked like? Midnight. The cockpit lights are dimmed lower than usual. After a final radio sign-off, the pilot switches off the transponder and ACARS. The jet makes a sudden U-turn right at the edge of controlled airspace. It blips intermittently on military radar, cuts over the peninsula, then drifts down toward the southern Inmarsat arc. And until the fuel runs dry, it seems the pilot had designed every single move. But picture another version. The flight simulator logs were just a simple hobby. The pilot loved testing routes, and that saved file was just one of many. But the delayed contradictory briefings from authorities fueled suspicion. Maybe he wasn't the culprit at all, just a victim created by incomplete data. Because both stories can be explained without contradicting the known data. There is still no final verdict to this day. The case started to feel like a mystery by design. First, the delays. Military radar and satellite data didn't come out all at once. They trickled out days, even weeks later. Second, partial evidence. Bits of debris surfaced, but the black box and the fuselage never did. Third, tangled interests. Governments, airlines, Boeing, insurance companies. Responsibility got divided, and clear answers disappeared. Fourth, conflicting interpretations. The same satellite pings and drift models led different experts to different conclusions. When you stack all 4 together, the case could never reach a consensus. The public stopped waiting for data and started filling the blanks with imagination. That imagination created more blanks, and that's the endless loop of conspiracy we have today. Everyone, this isn't just history. It's still an active case. In 2024, the Malaysian government accepted Ocean Infinity's proposal in principle. The deal? No fine, no fee. Meaning, they'd restart the search but would only get paid if they actually find something. In March 2025, news broke that the search was back on. It paused in April due to weather and equipment issues, but the year-end restart has already been confirmed. This isn't a closed case, it's an ongoing search. At the same time, some researchers re-examined the final Inmarsat data. The last 2 BFO values in particular suggest not just fuel exhaustion, but raise the claim that the jet might have made some kind of final maneuver. In 2024, Vincent Line's paper in the Journal of Navigation argues the search zone should be shifted further east. This is not a consensus. It's still highly controversial. Here's the point. The latest news is that both the search and the doubt are back on at the same time. That's why MH370 is still alive as a mystery today. Now, let's step back into that night. If we could go back to that moment, the unseen scenes might play out differently. What if the military radar data had been released that same night? Aviation authorities would have immediately redirected the search fleet west of the Malay Peninsula. They'd converge on the narrow zone that the satellites and drift models pointed to. Within 72 hours, scattered debris and fuel slicks are spotted on the water. Underwater locators pick up the black box's ping signal. If that had happened, the 2015 Reunion Island debris news we remember would never have happened. Instead, 2014 would have gone down in history as the year of the black box press conference. And conspiracy theories would have quickly lost all their steam. Another story starts inside the cockpit. Midnight. The cockpit lights are dimly lit. Right after the final radio call, the transponder and ACARs are turned off one by one. A new reroute is plotted on the navigation screen. The captain ignores the oxygen warnings and holds a constant altitude. The jet crosses the Malay Peninsula, slips past a gap in naval radar, and heads south. The only trace left is the Inmarsat arc. And every piece of evidence points to one thing: a planned, deliberate flight. But what if, on the other hand, the suspicion surrounding the pilot was wrong from the beginning? The simulator route was just a hobby record, and the deleted files were simply routine cleanup. The real issue might have been something else entirely: the slow data sharing between military and civilian agencies, and the conflicting briefings that fueled public doubt. If so, the culprit wasn't a specific person. It could have been the chaos and slowness created by the system itself. It becomes a case, not of a man's betrayal, but of the system's. Similar aviation tragedies eventually found closure. Air France Flight 447 crashed in the Atlantic in 2009, but its black box was recovered within 2 years. The cause was determined to be a complex failure involving pilot error, instruments, and the environment. That same year, MH17 was shot down over Ukraine. The cause, a Russian-made missile, was identified almost immediately. But MH370, its core evidence, has never surfaced. It wasn't a covered-up case, but one without the evidence to ever truly close. That's why Reddit still sees dozens of MH370 discussion threads every day, and X is flooded nightly with new coordinates and theories. This has truly become the case that just can't end. MH370 stands at a crossroads: accident, crime, or cover-up. But with key data, released late, incomplete, and contradictory, it became a story of entropy, never certainty. Delayed radar and satellite logs doomed the first searches. Recovered debris offered hints, but the blank space on the map was never filled. Nations, corporations, and insurers, all with tangled interests, blurred responsibility. Interpretations of BTO and BFO and drift models split experts down the middle. And in 2024 and 2025, the news of a new search and fresh research sparked both hope and fresh doubt. In this vacuum, conspiracy theories keep surviving by selling a narrative of the gap. Perhaps MH370 wasn't a cover-up by one person, but a structural cover-up created by the slowness and contradictions of multiple systems. What if tomorrow Ocean Infinity's drones brush past the metallic outline of wreckage on the ocean floor? What if the black box's ping is finally heard again? Would we finally get to face the truth? Or would we have to endure yet another delayed announcement? What's clear is this: the search has started up again. It paused, but it's set to resume by the end of the year. This isn't the past. It's still unfolding now. It's a record, still waiting for the names of 239 people. And that's why online communities are still posting new models and coordinates to this day. So, what do you think? Will the truth finally come out? Or will it vanish once more into a convenient conclusion? Don't miss out on the next content. Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications.